Good evening. Welcome back to the Weird and the Wonderful with Strange Bones. I hope everybody is having a wondrous evening. So yeah, welcome home to Sichle. And as we are getting started, I hope you're all having a wonderful evening. Hey Priska, and Ketjo Cat, and Ivan van der Heever, and Brosh 007, suitably James Bondy. So yeah, welcome to the channel. I hope that you are surviving this terribly up and down weather. It's like one day is practically melting you and the next day is freezing you to death, and then it's dry, and then it's wet, and then it's this, and then it's that. It's somewhat crazy. But yeah, as we go along. So welcome to everybody that has just joined. I'm going to start us off by reminding you that on this channel we make a point of saying that we have only one rule, and that is please do not be rude. Rudeness will result in getting the boot. But that said, we do not expect anybody to agree, disagree, like, dislike. Your comments are all absolutely welcome in every manner and form. We approve of it. We just expect you to at least realize that everything talked about is possibly quite important to somebody, and therefore we are not rude about it. We don't promote it, we don't deride it, we are merely on for the journey of discovery and interest, and for our own curiosity. And as we go along, I also encourage everybody, if you have a suitably weird and wonderful topic that you would like covered, feel free to tell us, because after all, that's what we are here to do, to look, to learn, to find out, and to understand. So I'm just getting things going and ready. And we have a new topic for tonight to consider, because we need more. But if there are any topics you would like looked at, we always need new topics. When you do a live nearly every single night, you run out of topics pretty fast. It's quite impressive. The only particular rule, I suppose, is that it's something suitably curious or interesting. Weird and wonderful is the topic. We prefer it if it is paranormal and supernatural, because we do like those sorts of things, absolutely. And we will revisit old topics as we go along as well, because when it is good, it is good. So absolutely. But as we move along, we generally go around looking at different opinions and comments, things from around history and around the world, to see what people think might be the case. Whether or not it is, of course, is something you have to decide for yourself. We can never be terribly sure, can we? So we learn as we go, and we satisfy our curiosity in that regard. But somebody brought up to me, in fact it was my darling wife who brought it up, what really is in the oceans. And I started thinking about it, because tonight we are going to talk about what is in the oceans. So our lives are about anything weird, wonderful, supernatural, paranormal, just plain curious and inexplicable, where we get to chat about things and talk about things. So it does change. Tonight is going to be the oceans. And some of the things that at least have been said are down there, whether or not it's true is an entirely different question. So we shall see what we think, and we can, as I say, we can give our opinion. This thing is absolute rubbish. I found a number of very interesting opinions, some of which are somewhat sensible and some of which are not. But again, possibilities. I will remind everybody that the channel runs on you, so like, share, subscribe, send all the gifties in, do interactions with comments, because frankly it does something for the algorithm, if nothing else. Send lots and lots and lots and lots of likes, because they're free and it never hurts and it promotes the channel. But that said, what do we actually properly, officially and scientifically know about our oceans? A comment was raised that we know less about the ocean floor than we do about the surface of the moon. And I thought that seems, well, a little bit of a stretch, surely. But no, as it turns out, we do know more about the surface of the moon than we know about the floor of the ocean, which is kind of scary if you think about it, seeing as most of the planet's covered with water. Thank you to Sutton for the liking of the live. Do appreciate. So what can we at all say about the ocean such as it is? Well, only a very, very small portion of the ocean has ever been explored for several different reasons. We know that as of mid-2025, roughly 27% of the global seafloor has been mapped. But using high-resolution technology, humans have physically explored only about 5% of the ocean floor, which is a tiny, teeny amount, let's be honest. That seems a bit of a teeny, tiny stretch right there. We know that according to NOAA, let's see, American Health and Safety type, I'm not sure, survival type group. I forget exactly what the NOAA stands for, but they do the radio warnings for disaster and all the rest of that. And a lot of other things as well. I'm not overly familiar with it. But yeah, 27% mapped, which is like bugger all. Physical exploration around 5%. So there are huge amounts of the ocean floor that not only has never been visited, it's never even been mapped at all, and some of it you literally cannot go to at all. Muse, thanks for the likes there, señorita. So why so little? Well, part of the problem is that it's too dark in the deeper part. So how deep does it get? Good question. Lack of landmarks make it very difficult to find that. I find that a bit hard to believe. Crushing pressure makes it really, really difficult to get down there and do anything, really. Yes, you are absolutely correct. This is where we live, and we've done more to try and figure out what's on the moon and beyond than we have on our own planet. And this leads to all kinds of stories about what the hell might be down there. And while scientists will confidently tell you, of course it can't exist, etc., 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 well, I remind you that number one, technically, humanity can't exist. The chances of humanity developing into a thinking creature like ourselves spontaneously and naturally is so incredibly slim that, scientifically speaking, we're a major miracle. So you can't tell me other things don't as well. And you can't simply say, oh, well, that doesn't seem sensible. Well, you haven't looked. Just because you don't believe things are down there doesn't mean it is. I mean, if you want to talk about sensible, let's talk about the duck-billed platypus, a poisonous duck-billed mammal that lays eggs. Nature doesn't bother with sensible. Nature does what it wants. So, yeah, right away you start realizing that maybe we are going to have to say, hold on. So let's talk about how deep we're talking. Well, I don't know if any of you have ever been to one of those quite large swimming pools, the ones that have a really deep diving area. And if you've gone right down to the bottom, how much your ears hurt, simply because the pressure already within like 3-4 meters starts getting a bit much, which means if you start going very down, you need to do adjustments. You can't go down too fast, you can't come up too fast, and all the rest. Well, as it turns out, if you really start going down, the pressure gets enough that it will simply crush steel. I mean, you can go pretty deep in a submarine or something, but after a certain amount you have to stop because, yeah, it's just too much. So there are places that, at least with current technology, we cannot go, which is kind of scary as well. So what is the deepest place? Well, the first answer is going to be the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, but not all parts of it. Certain parts of it are even deeper. So the Challenger Deep is the deepest known point on the Earth. And, excuse me, do apologize for that. It's found at the southern end of the Mariana Trench. You also have a couple of other places like the Milwaukee Deep in the Atlantic's Puerto Rico Trench and the Factorian Deep in the Southern Ocean's South Sandwich Trench. Now, how deep are we talking? So the deepest known point on Earth, as we said, Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, is approximately 10,924 meters deep. Or if you want it in American, 35,840 feet. That's deep enough that if you were down there without any protection, you would essentially be flat and dead. So pretty damn deep. It's formed by the subduction of the Pacific plate under the Mariana plate. What does that mean? Well, subducting means if you've got two plates like this, subducting is when one starts sliding under the other. So the gap where these knuckles fit against these fingers, that's the trench. And that's how it's formed. That's the short and easy answer, if you will. So it's that deep that it will squidge everything. Now, the next deepest place was the Milwaukee Deep in the Atlantic Ocean, which is part of the Puerto Rico Trench, and that's 8,378 meters, about 27,480 feet deep. Equally, kind of wow. I mean, that's very, 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 very deep. The Factorian Deep in the South Sandwich Trench is 7,432 meters. the Java Trench, 7,290 meters, and the little one, the Molloy Hole, the deepest point in the Arctic Ocean, is 5,551 meters deep. So right off bat, we're talking so deep that it's just beyond our ability to get down there. It's so deep that sunlight doesn't get down there. Now, one of the very interesting things I discovered when I was reading up on this is that you get layers in these really, really deep parts of the ocean. So as you go down, at certain levels, you'll get a sort of layer of silt that forms that looks like the bottom, but if you punch through it, there's more to go down, and there's several of these layers. So just what you might think is the bottom, not necessarily is. And they separate out different temperatures, they separate out different concentrations of salinity. There's certain places in the ocean, weirdly enough, that are so saline that they are literally toxic to all life, that are formed within certain weird things. We're going to get onto that in a little bit. So really strange things that are down there. But the other thing is, life develops within environments. So within these separate layers, you get different kinds of life developing. What it really is, these layers are very, very strange. They're formed out of planktons and organics and things like that. And you've got to go quite far down for the layers to happen. And there are varying geological reasons. Huge thanks for all the likes going there. I very, very much appreciate. But these layers are quite important because they separate out things that otherwise couldn't exist. And we're going to talk about some of the things down there. Now, I'm going to start off by talking about something which everybody knows isn't really real, or is it? So, with 95% of the ocean unexplored, speculation is rife. There could potentially be millions of totally unknown species. I mean, on land alone, we even now are finding occasional new species, and we pretty much know the whole of the land. So, given just how many varieties of birds, insects, plants, animals, and whatever is on land, can you imagine how much more is in the oceans, which cover more of the planet than the land does? Now, this means that what is down there? There is speculation of very large unknown animals down there, where light is different, pressure is different, and they only stay down there. They won't come up because the pressure would be too little for them up here. So they don't necessarily pass between. A possibility. They talk of mythical sea monsters like mermaids or hydras, but they're biologically impossible. Platypus. Real-life giant creatures? Maybe. There have been unidentified carcasses found. We know this. And we're going to talk first about the Kraken, just to set the tone. What about weird ecosystems around hydrothermal vents that rely on chemosynthesis rather than sunlight. There could be life forms uniquely adapted to extreme conditions. We know there's one that, while it is not technically a silicone-based life form, it is still a carbon-based life form, but it synthesizes silicone into its own body so that it can survive where it does. So while it is right at the back of everything a carbon-based life form, it's almost a silicone-based life form, which kind of implies, holy crap, there's more out there. Huge thanks for those roses. I appreciate that massively, massively. But right off bat, we're seeing that what we assume is true, you can assume it. Nature doesn't necessarily. We see that there are definitely places with very high pressure, very high temperature, very dark, and more, where there may be life, we just don't know. The other thing which is kind of scary is that scientists know that millions of tons of plastic enter the ocean each year, but we don't find millions of tons of plastic. So where does it go? Now, some of it ends up as what they call microplastics. Some may be ingested by marine life, but a lot of it is not accounted for. What else is down there? Well, here's the thing, and this leads back to a system of lives that we did on the possibility of the polar ice caps melting and reforming as being a geographically cyclic thing. It's natural. We all go, global warming, but we're only remembering what is, historically speaking, a very short time historically. The world has been going on for a lot longer, and we know this. So maybe global warming and cooling happens naturally every now and then. Now, here's the thing. If all of the ice caps melt, very little of the land as we know it will be above water, even besides the fact that the land changes due to geospatial movements and all of that all the time. We know that because of tectonic plate movement, volcanic activity, and all the rest of that. Here's the thing. Things like the flood from the Bible could have actually happened, but when it did, it would then cover huge areas. But now think reverse. When the polar caps fully form and you get what they call an ice age, there's far less water in the sea, much more land exposed where people might then have lived. Under the oceans, there could have been numerous settlements, cities, like the old story of Atlantis, that now that we have more melt and the seas have risen, we've lost, that in an ice age would have been exposed. They could be down there. We know for fact that there was in history a city off the coast of Egypt that everyone thought was a myth till they found it. It's there, it's just submerged. At a point, it was not submerged, and people lived there. Could that have happened for all kinds of other things? What cultures do we not know about? People say, but nobody could have got to these islands except by sailing. Well, now, were there times where there was dry land and they walked there? We don't know. We think too short. Thank you for that share. I appreciate that greatly. Guys, like, share, subscribe. It matters greatly. And send lots of gifts. So there's all sorts down there. Now, what else might be down there? Well, of course, we have to touch on conspiracy theories. Are there secret or classified military bases underwater? Are there alien civilizations underwater? There's a lot of stories, and one or two of them I'm going to tell you, of course, tonight, because why the hell not? It's about the weird, the wonderful, and the strange. Now, we know that there's a lot of geological features down there that we just don't know about. Huge unmapped areas, fault lines, mountains, canyons, secrets to the Earth's history, tectonic processes and more that we just don't know about. That's a given. Could there be unique undiscovered elements and compounds and possibly very important things for use in science, medicine and more? Well, yeah. If you're changing the environment that much, all kinds of things might develop. Especially not just the elements maybe, but certainly the compounds. Now, there are other things which people have tried to explain, but by and large, scientists say things like, oh, it's probably. No, what you mean is you don't know. That's the bottom line. It might be, you're theorizing it could be, but you don't know. So don't tell me I'm wrong with my theories where you're going, that's not logical. No, according to the system you're working on, we have often discovered that science has been completely wrong. In many things where it was known the Earth was flat, everybody knew it. If you sail to the edge, you will fall off. We know it. Oh, bit of a problem there. We now discover that might not be the case. Sorry. How many other things that we know are not actually as true as we thought? So what is the bloop, which is a powerful low-frequency sound recorded in the Pacific? It's likely caused by, say scientists, well, maybe, or maybe not. Just because you think it more likely doesn't mean you're right. And there's the rub. So what do people say? And what really is down there? Well, I'm going to start you off with a couple that we know are down there, that are absolutely real and are freaking terrifying. So story number one. Did you know that on a squid's tentacles, you get a couple of biggies at the top and a couple of littlies at the bottom, but the majority of them going down the main leg are the same size. And they are proportional to the size of the squid. They also have tiny teeth on them, which is freaky enough on its own. But here's the thing. If a squid latches onto you, those little teeth will cut you and leave a little cut. And if you measure the diameter of those little cuts, thus measuring the diameter of the sucker, you will be able to then know the length of the squid. This is scientific fact. Well, there was a Japanese whaler that was out somewhere or another, and they pulled up a sperm whale. Sperm whale is the biggest known whale in the ocean, and they are known to dive incredibly deep. And this one that they caught had previously been attacked by a squid. They measured the width of the sucker marks left on its skin, and at least from what I heard, from tip of head right down to the furthest, longest of the tentacles of the squid, they estimated that it would have been the length of a football field, which, as we know, is impossible. But that's how the science works. Now, if you had a squid the length of a football field, right there you've got a kraken. So maybe those ancient mythological stories that sailors told weren't just made up shit. Just saying. They do know that for absolute certain they have pulled up a number of interesting things, which includes squid that are quite a few meters long. Just throwing it out there. So what's down there? Well, here's one of my favorite, the anglerfish. The anglerfish is freaking ugly. And I remember when I was very, very small, we had a National Geographic book of animals and things, and the picture of the anglerfish always scared me. And in my head, I mean, I was like 4 or 5. This fish was about 1 foot long. No, as it turns out, the anglerfish, which is a mouthful of teeth with little fins on the side, and is a carnivorous hunter, is around about between 1 foot long and the size of a VW Beetle. They get big. So yes, it could eat you. Throwing it out there. Deep sea gigantism, that is where we are going. Because, according to what I have been researching, first of all, what we thought was the size of a megalodon, for example, back in the day, was an underestimation. When they did exist, and we're not saying they don't still exist, they were about 3 times bigger even than we thought. Megalodons, for those of you who don't know, is a proto-shark. So imagine a great white shark only about 5 times bigger than the biggest. And we're going to get into deep blue as well. So hold on to your hats. So yes, anglerfish the size of a small car. Next up, just to give you a suitable set of nightmares, the blobfish, a deep sea fish that is basically a gelatinous body. Now, the reason it looks so ugly when brought to the surface is because it's not designed to live on the surface. It's designed, quite literally, to live down below where the pressures are much, much higher, which says that there is stuff living there that is designed to live there, that is absolutely terrifying. And wait, there's more. Deep sea gigantism is a real thing. And yes, it will scare you in ways you did not believe. So let's briefly talk about the blobfish. It's literally, if you sort of took a fish and took out all of its bone structure so that it's just this sort of jelly-like gloop. But it looks like that only up here where the pressure's too small. Apparently it will simply die at the pressure we're at, even if it's in water. It needs to be down. So why is this so important? Well, it's got big black eyes, a wide mouth, and a bulbous nose, making it look like a sort of gelatinous half fish, half head, really, if I were to describe it. Not pretty at all. Its head is 40% of its body mass. They have a single closed circulatory system. They're only small though. They have no teeth and soft bodies, so this is not a dangerous one. But they do look human, which is really freaky. What exactly is it like? Freaking ugly and scary. Let's just say that. Now, it's very rare, if small. But now let's talk about the vampire squid. Now, the vampire squid is just terrifying. Why are they called the vampire squid? Well, imagine a squid, but between each of its tentacles is webbing. So it looks like it's a living vampire cloak. It's also a bright cherry red, just to make it even scarier. Because after all... Hey, Jay. Hey, Jay.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Bored.
You're bored? Well, we're talking about things on the ocean and weird stuff that's down there.
Oh, I hate the ocean.
You hate the ocean, but I thought you lived near the coast. It's going to be
I do, but I'm so scared.
It's going to be even more scary after you were done with this live.
The microphone is again.
What do you know about vampire squid?
Well, I know, like, it has, like, webbing between its tentacles or whatever.
Yes.
Something that I don't know.
Well, it's the vampire squid from hell, according to its Latin name. Vampiroteuthis infernalis. Okay. It's quite small most of the time, and it prefers to live... Cool. It lives very, very deep in general. It is bioluminescent, so it glows naturally, so it can live in parts of the ocean with the lowest concentrations of oxygen in the water. It's got two long retractable filaments between the first two pairs of arms, which make it different from both octopus and normal squids, which is interesting. It is the only known member of the order Vampiromorphidae, whatever that might mean. It's very, very strange, and only actually discovered in 1903, which was not that long ago. It only lives below 550 meters, so it doesn't come up in general, because it's not adapted for shallower waters. Now, they say it has a maximum length of 30 centimeters. However, and here's the bit where gigantism, deep sea gigantism, there are plenty of stories of things like this being a lot bigger. None proved scientifically true, but nevertheless, there are stories. The inner side of the cloak is black. So it's got a red outside with a black lining, and yeah, it's pretty freaky. Now, could there be bigger ones? Absolutely there could. We just don't know enough about what's down there. Is it carnivorous? Yes. It has blue blood as well. Why? Well, apparently blue blood needs less oxygen, if that helps. It helps them. It's incredibly agile, and one of the things that we do know is that octopi are immensely intelligent. They really are, which implies these would be too. And if they got really big, that would be worrying. It can do all of the cool things that squids and octopuses do. It has a very weird biology. We won't go into all of it, but let's just say it's kind of scary. We also have a thing called the barrel eye fish. It literally looks like you took a fish, chopped the head off, and replaced it with a really, really badly drawn kid's drawing of a human face. Barrel-like big round eyes, a stubby nose between them, and a rather sad-looking mouth. What is it? Well, it's just a freakishly ugly fish with a transparent head. You can see its brain pulsing inside. Hey, Spooky, you joined us. How are you doing, sir? But this alone is not sufficient. We get freakier. The pelican eel. I believe it is also known as the gulper eel. Imagine if you took a small-ish fish's body, put a long eel's tail on the back, and on the front a gigantic hinged mouth, full of teeth. Yes, the pelican eel, also known as the gulper eel. The blobfish, yes, you are absolutely correct. So yeah, these are all real, people. These are not mythological creatures, these are genuine ones. Okay, we haven't even got into the mythological stories. So this is absolutely a terrifying looking creature that's basically designed to bite and swallow things. Its mouth is larger than its body. It's hinged so it can be open wide enough to swallow a fish larger than the eel itself. It's just freaking ugly, and it's all teeth. So it can inflate its own face to eat bigger amounts. Now, again, they say that these are the smaller sort of creature, only being about 1 meter in length. However, again, deep sea gigantism, it has a slightly different biology to most things, which shows that things adapt and change. It's got a different musculature to other fish. It's designed different. We know that they are active hunters, lunge feeding, using its expanded mandibles and upper jaws. So basically it's a violent hunter that will come and bite you and swallow you. So if it did get big, Again, nightmare fuel. Then, of course, you have the giant isopod. Now, you're probably asking, what the hell is an isopod? Well, have you ever seen a sea lice? If you've ever seen a sea lice, which if you come from South Africa, you probably have, at least if you're anywhere near the beach. Thank you for the likes there. Huge appreciation. Basically, a sea lice is an isopod. So, deep sea giant isopods. So, a sea lice, which normally is about 1 inch to 2 inches in size, only these ones get much bigger. So they can get up to the length of a ruler long, at least. Some say they can get up to 50 centimeters long, which is really quite awful. And the supergiant version is 76 centimeters long, which is like gigantic. And I mean, they're like a sea cockroach with evil looking eyes and grabby claws on the front and too many legs and a hard shell, and really and truly, they are not pretty. I'm going to put a picture up just to, share the pain here, because right away, this is nightmare fuel. And you need to see this and be terrorized just like me. Because I'm... Nearly 1 meter long. That. Just saying. That you're talking, Spooky, you're talking about the anglerfish, which can grow up to the size of a VW Beetle. Yeah, that big. With all the teeth. Yeah. And these things, giant sea cockroaches. It gets bad. So now that we've given you a suitable amount of mental trauma, let's go on to the next one. And this one's kind of cute in a way, because it's the Dumbo octopus. And it just looks cute. It's gelatinous, and it's designed for deep sea environment, and it gets on our list. No, I'm going off stuff from scientific sites. It's that big. That thing behind me, nearly 1 meter, 76 centimeters long. Yeah. Be afraid. But the Dumbo octopus is really, really cute. But what makes it particularly special is how it's adapted for deep sea conditions, which basically tells us that things can and do live really deep down there. So, yeah. That one is not in a dish tray, it's on a oceanographic display table. And that particular one is 1.5 feet long. Actually, that's a good point. I mean, if prawns are good, full meter long, except it might be thinking the same thing about you, throwing it out there. Okay. Now, the Dumbo octopus is incredibly rare. Basically because we never see them. We can't go down where it is. So they ignore us, by and large. Are they the deepest? Well, we know that they can get down to 13,000 feet, and science says they're the deepest living octopus known. We're not saying there aren't others even deeper. But we'll get on to creepier creatures shortly. You also get things like the frilled shark, which I'm going to throw it out there and say that this thing looks 50% like a mermaid. It's also known as the lizard shark. It's really freaky. These things developed around 80 million years ago and haven't changed. They just carry on like they are, quite happily. And they look 80 million years old. They're freaking ugly. Clearly, we're talking about something that is just different. It's got a very elongated body. And yeah, just in case you're worrying, it comes off the coast of South Africa. It's one of our freaks, so that you know. It has no real proper forward dorsal fin like sharks normally would. It doesn't have scales like a mermaid. It's got the skin like a shark. But really and truly, if mermaids did exist, they probably wouldn't be scaled. They would have more dolphin-like or shark-like skin. Surf and turf, which is pretty cool. The dorsal fin on this thing is quite far back, and seen from certain angles, it really does look pretty freaky with its weird lizard-like head and mouth. Yeah, they really are not designed for us to see. Nevertheless, let's talk about the stargazer. Now, when it comes to who's ugly, this guy got kicked in the face. Stargazers are a particular kind of fish with its eyes on top of its head, and it basically is a bottom swimmer right on the ground. Okay, so eyes up probably makes sense. Yeah, I'd test them all too. I'm easy on that. I like seafood. They like to bury themselves in sand and leap upward to ambush their prey. So it's a carnivorous hunter. Some have got a worm-shaped lure growing out of the floor of their mouth that they wiggle to attract the prey's attention. They are very camouflaged with these huge eyes on the top of their head that stare up. They have an electric organ that can also give you an electric shock. Okay, so it can shock you, it leaps at you to bite you, and it can use the same electroreceptors to tell what's around it without even seeing. These apparently are a delicacy in some cultures. The venom that they have, because of course they're poisonous as well, is not a problem when they're cooked properly. So it's okay. So you can buy them and eat them. Ambush predators with venom and poison shocks. One of the meanest thugs in creation. Have several varieties, some worse than others. How big do these buggers get? They don't tell you. I'm just going to say that they don't look like the kind of thing I'd want to meet. But hey, you also get, just to give us a little bit of calm within the storm, sea angels. Well, they're very small, and they look like little angels like you would see on top of a Christmas tree, semi-transparent, wing-like appendages, but they're actually a form of slug. Maybe angels are too. Huge thanks for those likes. Transparent with wings to gracefully swim around, only growing up to 8 centimeters in length. You can see their internal organs in varying colors like orange, yellow, red, and green. And they're mostly found in cold water, but some temperatures as well. They feed exclusively on sea slugs, known as sea butterflies. So they're not as angelic as you might think. They are also simultaneous hermaphrodites, so they are both male and female at the same time. So you literally can tell it to go in itself, and it could. Isn't that a nice way to talk about an angel? So they're a kind of mollusk, and they live about for 2 years. They're kind of cute, but they are pretty freaky. Now, the next interesting creature is called a siphonophore. So a giant tube, if you will. It's a complex organism that is made up of other smaller organisms. So it isn't one creature in and of itself, but many that connect together to create another creature. So think Transformer. Like a jellyfish in many cases, they're not one creature. They appear to be one creature, but no. These ones even have separate bits where certain of the creatures making up the bigger creature will become the eyes, some will become the mouth, some will become the stomach, but it's actually separate creatures that modify and colonize together and transform themselves into something else. How freaky do you want to go? That's a good question, because we're going to talk more about the giant kraken. They're real. If you've ever seen the vampire squid, you've seen Ursula. And yes, she poops ink. But these things literally built themselves into a new creature. Now, I throw it out there. If you want terrifying, can you imagine, and I'm not saying it ever could happen or would happen, but can you imagine if this was intelligent and it can change what it builds itself into? Right there, you've got zombie, mind-blowing zombie creature. So it's a hydrozoan. It's considered to be, what do they call it, a zooid, a polypoid zooid that are morphologically and functionally specialized. So they're multicellular units that develop from a single egg and then combine to create functional qualities able to reproduce, digest, float, maintain body positioning, use jet propulsion to move and more, and act as if they are an actual creature even though they're multiple. Some of them can produce their own light. Like many hydrozoans, they say cheerfully, Cecilia or something? Not sure. But these things can glow red, which is unusual. Why it's unusual? I don't know. They're already scary. They literally are able to function as a larger single animal even though they're not. So what is the biggest creature we know of? Well, the biggest creature that we know of is the blue whale. Okay. The fin whale, the sperm whale, and the whale shark are the other biggest of the fish. The blue whale can be up to 100 feet long and weigh as much as 200 tons. That's pretty damn big. The fin whale can be 80 to 90 feet. Now, we are not saying that there can't be other bigger things, because if you were there at the beginning of the live, you would have realized that we said we've actually explored 5% of the ocean floor. We know virtually nothing about it. The sperm whale, which is the largest toothed predator in the oceans that we know of, can grow to 67 feet long, which means that as a carnivore, it's big enough to ruin your day. We then get the whale shark, which is the biggest fish in the sea. Now, here's the other argument. There is no way that mermaids scientifically could develop, because they would have to be mammalian rather than ictid, so they'd have to be mammals, not fish. Except whales are mammals, and they can be up to 100 feet long. You get mammals that can go that depth. Sorry, right away you've just countered your own argument, science. I will look that up. I'll tell you what, look that up, see if you can, and then tell us all about it. I don't know that one. I definitely want to know more about that, because it sounds like a sea version of Medusa. That sounds really interesting, Spooky. Tell us more. Senorita, thank you for the follow. Now, then you have the next problem creature, the largest known, I repeat, the largest known great squid, which is the largest invertebrate, was 37 meters long. That's big enough to make you not want to dip your toes in the sea, throwing it out there. But don't worry, we can go worse. The lion's mane jellyfish, the longest non-colonial animal on Earth, as in it's not the biggest colonial animal on Earth, This is just the biggest that is a single creature, which can have tentacles up to 120 feet long. Okay. Now we're going to quickly and briefly talk about the squid and the lion's mane jellyfish in order to terrify you further because, well, you know, that's what we do. When it comes to colossal squids, okay, it is literally called the colossal squid. It is the largest in terms of mass known. It can weigh up to 500 kilograms. Okay. The largest specimens are only known from ones found in the stomachs of sperm whales, the biggest predator that we know. But if there were bigger ones, the sperm whales couldn't have eaten them, ergo, they might get up to even 700 or speculatively 800 kilograms in weight. They're only supposed to go to around 4 meters long. However, as we have seen, there's a possibility that down there might be bigger ones. And they immediately say there is possible that deeper up to 14 meters long, at least. The colossal squid has the largest eyes of any known creature, which are the size of a dinner plate, 30 centimeters across. They could get even bigger. Certain species have hooks on its arms, suckers, and tentacles. It lives in the Southern Ocean, so yes, it's in our waters. Of course it is. And it's an ambush predator. It's huge. It's ugly, and it will probably try and eat you because it can. Now, if you add a bit of gigantism, well, let me show you something just to spoil your days a little further, because that's what we do for, you, because we're nice like that. As you know, squads and octopi and such have beaks. Those funny little bitey beaks in the middle of their body. Here's one that they found, held in a person's hand. How big do you think that was? Throwing it out there, just to ruin your day. So these are all real ones. We haven't even got onto the mythological yet. So hold on tight. It's going to get worse. The lion's mane jellyfish, which is the largest single organism that is known. It is the species of jellyfish. It's only found in the cold waters. Thank God for that. We're pretty safe from it, but there are similar species around Australia. Sucks to be you. The largest recorded specimen was found off the coast of Massachusetts in 1865, and the head part of it was 210 centimeters across. That's around 7 foot. That's wider than I am tall. And Spooky has come back with stories. So, he says that the Cercilia are not described as having octopus hair in their core definition, but Do go on, sir. Now, the question that we have, which is very quite important, is how poisonous are they? Because that's what worries me. If they're 7 foot across, wider than I am tall, throwing it out there, temporary pain and localized redness, they're not known to be fatal, and vinegar will deactivate the nematocysts. But they do advise medical treatment because it's not going to be pleasant. There's no real danger to ordinary people, only those with special allergies. How do you find out? Oh, look, it stung me. After all, I did have a special allergy that I never knew. Well, yes, that's possible. But yeah, they do say it could get bigger, but we're not really sure. That doesn't make me feel any better whatsoever. So what is the biggest squid ever? We have some more from Spooky, who says that some interpretation in pseudo tentacle hair. Yes, I see what you mean. So we are quite literally referring to Ursula from The Little Mermaid. A humanoid torso and head, lower body with octopus tentacles, able to change its colouring just like a octopus does. They're supposed to be intelligent, adaptable, and maybe magical. It's sort of a cross between a mermaid and an octopus type idea. According to folklore, the original ones were not necessarily bad. They come from, interestingly enough, a very specific set of areas. It might be hostile. It comes from Asian and Native American mythology, legend, and folklore. Merfolk that are octopi, yes. A kind of a sea witch. Yeah, I see what you mean, though. Not necessarily tentacle hair. Might have. Became popular through The Little Mermaid with Ursula, obviously. Considered to have thalassomancy, magic connected to water. Some say that they are sadistic monsters causing destruction and discord, but others say that they're quite neutral. They like their privacy and are very shy. Are they villains? I suppose it's questionable. Some of them look pretty cool in the pictures, at least, but I suppose that's going straight onto serious yeah, very much into mythology there. I'm going to throw it out. Are they real? Well, I don't know. They could be, I suppose. I haven't seen one myself. So there you are. That's one I didn't know. Thank you to Spooky for giving us an extra one. The largest ever squid found weighed around 2,000 pounds and was 43 feet long, which is pretty big. So around 14 meters long, 500 kilograms. That's big enough to ruin your fishing trip. I bet it made killer calamari. So, yep. Oh, and the females are bigger and nastier than the males. Apparently. Can you eat them? Should you eat them? Will I get in trouble for eating them? Let's find out. I have to know now. Has anyone... Oh, here we go. Has anyone ever attempted to eat a giant squid before? No, because it will grab anything it can and pull you into its razor-sharp beak, including humans. Great. It's technically edible, apparently. Technically. So sharpen up your knife and fork, Spooky. We might have a meal going. But they do say that people have tried them, but they contain an absurd amount of ammonia in their blood and tissue. So it might taste pretty yuck. Muscle tissue is not inherently poisonous, but it can become yuck. Finding them is hard, catching them is harder, as they're a highly aggressive and cannibalistic species. So if you could try and get hold of one, it might be a problem for you. And once you've got the meat, they basically have the taste of urine and sweat. Oh yeah, very, very, very strong. Have you ever picked up an octopus? Even the little ones can grip you in quite a wicked way. So one that's 14 meters long can probably give you quite the squeeze. So how big is big? Big enough to ruin your life. Mostly not found around South Africa. Thank goodness for that. But definitely large enough to ruin your day. They really and truly are terrifying. Half a ton of squid. I mean, octopuses are pretty slim and limber, so they don't weigh a lot for their size. So if it got up to half a ton, that's going to be big enough to ruin your life in every possible way. And well, that beak that you see there is big enough to bite your hand off. Yeah, no, probably not. I mean, these things are truly... We haven't even got onto the mythological creatures, and already it's as terrifying. Thanks for the likes there, by the way. But yeah, let's move along to the next thing. So what are the biggest things according to mythology? I mean, the real things are truly terrifying enough, thank you very much. But let's terrify ourselves further. The biggest things, well, you had Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent from Norse mythology, which was a sea creature, and it was big enough to wrap itself around the entire world and grasp its own tail in its mouth. So pretty big. And is the creature that will battle Thor at Ragnarok, in case you do wonder. The Leviathan, mentioned in the Bible, which is said to be miles long. How big it really is, who's to say? But a giant fish nevertheless. The Kraken, which of course we have discovered is quite big enough, thank you very much. If you were out to sea in a small Viking ship, which were not terribly large, and a 14-meter creature with a beak like the one behind me came over the side, I'm willing to bet that you'd need to rinse your legs off afterwards. I'm just saying. Then you have Bahamut from Arabic mythology, which is a fish big enough to carry the world on its back. Probably not going to be interested in us. Cetus, the sea monster in Greek mythology, sent to devour Andromeda. Colossal beast with the body of a whale and the head resembling a boar. Charybdis, the monster from Greek mythology, which is basically a giant whirlpool that can swallow entire ships. Big enough. Aspidochelone, the giant turtle that can pretend to be an island. So those are the biggest ones from legend. Probably too big for us to worry about. But what about sea monsters? What are sea monsters? Well, they are huge. They come from the sea and they take all kinds of different sizes and shapes. Slimy, scaly, shark-like, spouting jets of water. Well, we know octopuses do that. Anything big enough to be truly terrifying, from whales to colossal squids. Now, they turn up in just about any culture that has anything to do with the sea. So Avienus relates the Carthaginian explorer Himilco's voyage. There are monsters of the deep and beasts that swim amidst the crawling ships. Sir Humphrey Gilbert claimed to have encountered a lion-like monster with glaring eyes on his return voyage after finding Newfoundland in 1583. Another account of a sea monster from 1734 was Hans Egede, a Dano-Norwegian missionary who said on his voyage to Gotthard on the western coast of Greenland, he saw this: a most terrible creature resembling nothing that we had seen before. The monster lifted its head so high that it seemed higher than the crow's nest on the mainmast. The head was small, and the body short and wrinkled. The unknown creature was using giant fins that propelled it through the water. Later, the sailors saw its tail as well, and it was longer than our whole ship. And that sounds absolutely exactly like a giant plesiosaur or something like that. There is a Tlingit legend of a sea monster named Gunakadit, which brought prosperity. But it seems by and large that sea monsters are not good for you. No, Godzilla, I'm afraid, he's not a sea monster, though he did wade across to Japan and then battle King Kong. But they say that by and large, ichthyosaur or plesiosaurs could absolutely have been what people did see. So we know gigantic creatures did exist, and we will speak of them because if any still exist, they are big enough to be monsters, and if they lived that far down, there was a plesiosaur netted in 1977 that caused a sensation until the FBI pointed out that it's the decomposing carcass of a whale, so that you know. Because as we know, the FBI is absolutely the expert on what's out there, and they lay down the rules. Since we're moving to the weird, what about underwater? We haven't even got to that. We're sort of edging our way towards the conspiracies. So hold on, because there's more. So yeah, it's funny how the FBI turned. So here's the thing, and I was going to save this for later, but they found artifacts which they took to the Cape Town Oceanographical Institute to examine, and they were carved with what looked like writing, and they were clearly tools made of whalebone that were found under the ocean. And they brought them in to examine them. Before they could examine them, the FBI, which has zero authority to do so, turned up and confiscated them. They just turned up, took them and buggered off. Unfortunately, somebody I know's friend took a photograph because she worked there, and she put it on the internet. I went onto the internet to find the photograph so I could show you guys for tonight, and it's gone. There's no record, nothing, zero zip. There's no proof. But I actually saw the photographs, and this person said it looked like intelligently made whalebone tools, as you might expect from a more advanced race that can't use metal or such. And they were really interesting. Mermaid tools. Confiscated. Photographs. Poof. Gone. Just saying. So it's amazing how the FBI turns up to tell you what isn't down there. We also need to talk about things like the bloop, because absolutely that needs explaining, but they haven't explained it. Now there's a whole ton on the list of really strange things, including sea serpents, tritons that Pliny talked about, which we are going to have to discuss as well. Sirens, mermaids. I mean, the list goes on. and on and on and on and on. Cormac Way Lythain in the 6th century saw a horde of tiny creatures the size of frogs that attacked a boat in the North Atlantic, according to one account, and he did not know what they were. They were like sea fairies. So maybe there are. We saw a video just the other day of a satellite image of Loch Ness, which we know is open to the sea, and one of the infrared shapes taken by LiDAR really, 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 really does look a lot like Loch Ness. I'm just saying, Nessie. Was it? I don't know. But it makes it really difficult when people show things like that. No, there's got to be a perfect explanation. Really, because I'd like to hear it. The Ichthyosaur, by the way, which is a genuine but now extinct dinosaur, basically was a giant early shark, and survived till at least 90 million years ago for sure. Possibly even more recently. We don't know what's down there. How big are we talking? Well, the species grew up to around 30 meters long. So if you can think of a 30-meter long shark that could live very, very deep in the water, long bladed teeth for carnivorous attack. Oh yes, USOs are a genuine thing. We haven't even got to that. So be careful. Then we go on to the reptiles, because most of us think, no, but there's no reptiles in the ocean. And of course I give you saltwater crocodiles, which can grow at least up to 5 meters long, possibly bigger. 5 meters of crocodile is more than enough to nosh your ankles. Yes, he does. It goes back a very long time, and he talks about things in the myth which were spoken of as genuine, just throwing it out there. So your plesiosaur, which is basically your archetypal Loch Ness monster, okay, which is genuine, or was genuine, up to 66 million years ago at least. Maybe it lasted longer, we don't know. But it's basically the Loch Ness monster. How big are we talking? They don't want to tell us, because it will give us nightmares. No, they don't want to tell us. But big enough to eat your head. That they are truly quite quite huge. And yes, they are carnivorous. So would they eat you? Yes. Could they eat you? Also, yes. Absolutely. Would they be the kind of thing you don't want to encounter swimming? Yes. The heart of the ocean. Now that sounds interesting. But let's now go into a little bit. Hey Daniel, we're talking about what weird shit is at the bottom of the sea. Some of it real, some of it we don't know. We're starting to wonder. So tritons. Tritons were talked about a lot by the Greeks, and essentially the original Triton is the Greek god of the sea. But it's kind of a mermaid. It's the Greek version of a mermaid, or merman, if you wish. So absolutely, and is depicted in a lot of different Greek stories as well. The other ones that you get are Oceanids, which are basically female versions of mermaids. So tritons are the male and mermaids are the female, if that makes any difference at all. Like to live very deep. Sometimes bore a trident, which is where we pretty much get the idea of. He's said to be sea-hued, according to Ovid, with his shoulders barnacled with seashells. Now, sea-hued could mean a lot of things. Blue, blue-green, green, greyish. So, hard to say. But the same description as Triton comes up in a number of other countries and cultures as well, just so you know. The death serpent, the curses of the sea. I do not know about the death serpent. That will be your job to tell us about the death serpent, and I will tell everyone from what you tell us. We do know that pretty much exactly the same description is the Japanese ningen. So, said to be a great deal bigger than a person, possibly something big is down there. They're not sure what. They say that in 2010, the Enoshima Aquarium published a YouTube video showing ocean life that they observed. At the end of the video, a large object appearing to have small eyes and a slit-like mouth can be seen spotting on the ocean floor. They said it was a ningen. Immediately, people said, no, that's a rock formation. Have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful time. Thank you so much, and have a very good evening indeed. Be blessed, good sir. So, huge creatures keep being said to be down there, and people keep saying, no, no, it can't be, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. But we keep seeing big things down there. So if you go and ask on Google, they will say, no, the Loch Ness Monster is not real. The scientific consensus is that it's a myth. Many sightings have been reported over the years. Evidence for a large creature is lacking, and most proof has been debunked. But not all. You just don't want to believe in it, which implies that it could be real. There are things down there that are big, and just because you don't know, don't mean it ain't real. It fits to a... Poseidon is the god of the sea. Now, you had two versions. The original Greek version was Poseidon, and the modern Roman version was Neptune. So you had the three brothers, which included Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. And they were the ones that took out the original Titans and took over as gods. And from them all the other gods developed. So that's who Poseidon was. He was one of the three brothers. There were sisters involved, apparently, but then things got a bit funky because the propagation went on. We won't talk about that. So everybody goes on and on and on and on and explain that it could never exist, it doesn't exist. It looks exactly like a plesiosaur, which did exist, and we don't know if there anything is down there that deep, but it doesn't exist because science doesn't like the idea. There's been millions of people who've said they've seen it, nevertheless. So science is full of crap. So what's the biggest shark ever recorded? Okay, so it was estimated that the megalodon was 20 meters long. They now suspect they may have got it wrong, and it may have been up to 60 meters long. It doesn't exist anymore. 20 meters is big enough to ruin your swimming. The biggest living creature is the whale shark, the largest reliably measured being 18.8 meters long. That's quite big enough. A shark 18.8 meters long. However, along with that, in case you're wondering, let's talk deep blue. Deep blue is a female great white shark that is absolutely real, estimated to be around 6.1 meters long or larger, which is now 60 years old. She is believed to be one of the largest ever recorded in history. It was first spotted in Mexico by a researcher and featured on TV, so they couldn't say it didn't exist. It was spotted a couple of times after that by people who were looking for tiger sharks off the island of Oahu, just so as you know. So it was last seen in around 2015 when she was seen eating a sperm whale carcass in Hawaii. So what probably weighs around 2 tons. So yeah, the size is a little difficult to tell. They're not sure of the age, but they reckon at least 60 years old. A notable pigmentation and markings on her body, and a large laceration on the face. So she's easy to spot and know it's her. The injury is fully healed and is only a faint scar. Oh, last photograph 2019. So it's still going strong. In addition to her length, her body is notably fat, which means she may have been pregnant. They basically say that this is one massive frickin' shark. And as we know, great whites do like to eat meat. She's probably not alone, because along with deep blue, there's another one with distinct markings, which is known as Hail Girl. Not quite as big as deep blue. And generally she's pretty placid, because let's face it, if you're a shark that big, how many other creatures out there are going to be a threat to you? I'm just asking. Scarpy, welcome. And thank you for the sharing of the live. So we're talking about what lies below in the oceans and how little we actually know, and how all the things that science has promised us cannot exist is turning out to be a little bit more real than you might think. So there's at least 2 giant great whites. So both of them are around 20 feet long, which does not make me feel any better at all. I've seen what great white. I used to live at the beach. I've seen what great whites can do. The little ones. If you're talking a 6-meter shark, that's enough to make me scared. But now let's talk mermaids or tritons, seeing as that's the way we go. We've already mentioned you've got the octopus ones like Ursula. But what are mermaids, and why would it matter? So in folklore, a mermaid is an aquatic creature with the hidden upper body of a female human and the tail of a fish. Now it's pointed out that you can't get a cross between an ichthyor and yes, it's rather good. People have been very kind tonight, and I'm very grateful for all the likes. So you can't get a cross between a mammal and an ichthyor. But we know that mermaids are said to have flat tails, not vertical tails. So what if it was not a cross between a fish and a woman, but rather a woman and a dolphin, which are mammals, which are aquatic? It would be different right off. So the comments that appear on most, you can't get that, there's ways around. And we have seen already that when it comes to the development of creatures in the depths, Mother Nature does what she wants and not what science thinks should be. So you get male and female, obviously. They are featured in just about every seafaring or coastal country in the world, and some inland in Africa, so there you go. And indeed, in fact, seeing as it was raised by Spooky, I put it to you that the Dogon, who are inland Africa, say that actually they're aliens, and that's how they know about the star systems that they do know about, that science can't explain why they know about, because science has only discovered them recently. And these guys have known about them for centuries. So right off bat, the Dogon, who've been right in everything else they've said, have said that, no, these are aliens that came down and live deep in the oceans, in case you didn't know. Just throwing it out there. Science does not like the idea of mermaids at all. But so what? The Greeks talk about them all the time. The Africans have, the Spanish, the Italians, the French. Christopher Columbus, who in all things was said to be a reliable historian and cartographer, saw mermaids and immediately know in that he was mistaken. Everything else he was right, but in that he was mistaken, because mermaids don't exist according to scientists. No, either you can rely on what he says or you can't pick one, because if you can't, then all of what he said could have been crap as well. Pick one and run with it, science. Be consistent. I'm just saying. Now there's been all kinds of other versions. Some say that they try to sing to sailors and what, but I'm going to point out that sirens are only the same as mermaids in modern mythology. In proper mythology, where they come from, mermaids and sirens are two different things. Sirens are part bird, not fish. Mermen or mermaids are something different. Just so we clarify that. So mermaids singing, maybe, maybe not. It doesn't seem to be the case. We know that a lot of things have been modified by modern stories where people just made the story go, not because it was something somebody reported seeing. So let's be careful about that. So mermaids and tritons are the same thing. They try to explain that the idea came from the old Persian things like that, or old Babylonian, it was brought in. Yeah, there are too many tales of people seeing them. Rational attempts at explanation. Malaysian philosopher Anaximander postulated that mankind had sprung from aquatic animals back in 546 BC, a theory called the aquatic ape theory. He thought that humans began life with a prolonged infancy, could not have survived otherwise. Naturalistic theories, therefore, say that maybe we have developed from the sea creatures. Proper science says, no, that can't be true. We're talking about manatees and dugongs, or maybe seals. There's no such thing as the aquatic ape, though life did emerge from the sea originally. Hold on, wait, what theory are we going with? Because it seems that we have different arguments. Now, Spooky points out that mermaids drown people. Well, some might, but they still seem nicer than humans. Are they kind? Maybe they're just being protective. I mean, let's face it, the first thing humans do is try and stick a skewer in them. And I point out earlier in the live, you admitted you would give it a try. So, beautiful but deadly? Maybe. How beautiful? Arguable, actually. Nobody actually originally said that they were truly beautiful, necessarily. Now, they're mentioned all over the world, and in all kinds of different folklores. Some say they're good, some say they're bad. They're described in Christian literature as well. Some actually try to warn ships, according to some stories, or lead them to safety, which sometimes does work and sometimes doesn't. So maybe they can survive. There are freshwater versions, which are slightly different, including in the Amazon, apparently. As recently as properly recorded history, they say that there were human interactions in Cornwall between mermaids and people within the last 100-odd years. So there's that. We know that the Scandinavians, the Germans, all kinds of different people talk about. And the Swedes say that the mermaids try to kidnap people on occasion. Is that true? Again, I'm not sure. The Norwegians say that they're nasty as well, but it seems in the British Isles they think of them as pretty good. The Magyar people, or their version of the mermaids from Norway, are said to be pretty nasty and are a kind of troll. So there's that. Melusine is spoken of as a mermaid in French stories. So you've got that. The Chinese talk about them, though they basically say they're a lot more ugly rather than beautiful. They don't say they are scaly, but that they are pale-skinned like a dolphin. Apparently, they are not terribly unlike people, and are spoken as Renu, human fish. And they say that the emissary to Korea from China, the Zadao, spotted one which he spoke about, an unkempt hairdo and red hair that went down to the back of her elbows. The Tsar ordered the crew to bring her aboard with poles, but she escaped. And Tsar explained that she was a Renyu and was a type of human that dwelt in the sea, which apparently he knew about. So Koreans talk about, Japanese, India talks about, the Philippines, New Zealand talks about, the Arabic peoples talk about, the Romans have reported sightings. It goes on and on and on and on, but they don't exist, even though everyone went and saw them. So, are you off to bump? We're about to bump. We're nearly at the end. We are nearly at bump time, but we've got about 10 minutes to go. But we will. And we will tell them not to allow for this. But we need to go on a little bit, or shall we carry this on in tomorrow night's live? What do you think? Because there's still more things that are down there that need explicating and talking about. Well, I'll give it 4 minutes, and then we shall explicate and speak on. Because there are yet more truly terrifying things for us to talk about. But absolutely, they say that proper... Now, I've got a picture for you of what they say a more realistic story would be of what a mermaid might look like. But along with this, I've also got a story for you, which is pretty freaky. This is one they said they found. Is that suitably creepy for you? Now, good stuff. Okay, so mermaids, probably more dolphin-like in their appearance. Now, years ago, and I actually have seen this video, and I tried to find it, and it is again gone. There was an incident where a little boy found what he said was a mermaid on the beach, and he filmed it on his cell phone. And then he ran away to tell his mother. Then somebody else came across it, realized, hey, there's something there, and within minutes, there was FBI all over the beach, closed it up, removed the thing, said no, it was a decaying whale, it was a health hazard, and they've now removed it. There you go, don't worry, thank you very much, we looked after you. All cheer the FBI. So far, so good. Until you realize that nobody had actually cottoned on that this kid had actually already taken a video on his cell phone. So later on, he explained to Mommy Dearest, he was about 10, he explained to Mommy Dearest that no, when we were there, we saw this thing. And she said, no, you're talking a load of shite. Don't be silly, little chip. Don't be silly. So he said, no, but I'm not being silly. Look, I recorded it on my cell phone. So she said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? You recorded it on your cell phone. So he showed her this video of a creature that looked just like the one behind me, okay, that was on the beach and was still alive and moved and lunged at him, which is why he ran away. It was dead by the time the Fibbies got there, because it clearly wasn't doing well, but it was alive when he saw it and videoed it. And the video came on, and it was an old video before we got all of the great AI and the ability to modify things. And I did see it way back when. It was one of the very early ones. I forget where it was. That's what's bugging me. But it looked a lot like this, and it had sort of dolphin-like noises that it made. But the video now, there is no trace whatsoever anywhere at all. You just cannot find it. So it seems it's been completely and utterly wiped from the internet, at least unless you go onto the dark web or something, I don't know. But it was fascinating to see. And the speed with which people turned up to clear the beach of a dead whale for health reasons, yeah. Yes, if you look, mammalian sea creatures have a horizontal tail. Ichthyosaur sea creatures have a vertical tail. So if it's a fish, the tail goes left to right because it's vertical. If it's mammalian, the tail is horizontal and it goes up and down. Why? I don't know, but that's a common. Dolphins, whales, orcas, all mammals, all the horizontal type thing, and not scaled. Ichthyosaurs, which are scales, are vertical, and that's different. So it implies that if there is a creature like this, it's mammalian, not fish, which implies the possibility of a humanoid sea creature, because fishes are unlikely to come out as humanoid, but mammals all have the same skeletal structure. That's the thing. Did you know all mammals have an identical skeletal structure? It's just stretched differently by evolution, but basically it's the same thing. So inside what is a single whale's fin are bones like fingers. Just so you know. Even bats, which are mammals, have a skeletal structure same as us. It's just stretched different. And no, it doesn't look beautiful. So there are all kinds of stories in this regard, some of which have been said to have been caught. They say in the Qing dynasty they did catch one, and some said they had a very fine hair that helps camouflage them to a certain degree. We know that in 1870 and 1890 there were 2 sightings in Canada. A Pennsylvania fisherman reported 5 sightings in the Susquehanna River near Marietta in 1881. That's very, very recent. In August 2009, dozens of people reported seeing a mermaid in Haifa Bay. And Kiryat Yam in Israel offered $1 million for proof of the existence, but they said no one claimed it. 2012, 2 reservoirs near Gokwe in Zimbabwe were being worked on, and all work stopped when workers refused to continue, saying that mermaids had hounded them away from the sites. And this was a very serious problem. We know that there are a number of strange artifacts found, which people say were mermaid, but maybe not. Well, yes. Exactly like that, Spooky. It's one thing. That's the point. Now, of course, everyone goes, no, mermaids don't exist. Of course they can't exist. We would know. But science has just admitted that we literally know less than 5% of what's on the bottom of the ocean. So science in this case is cordially invited to shut up, because everybody else thinks mermaids do exist, and it's very, very clear that science actually doesn't know in this regard. Now, we do have a whole history of what might be down in mermaids. Are they real? Could they be real? Should they be real? But really and truly, I would say that the important ones to remember: 1943 K Islands, Japanese soldiers stationed on the 555 square mile area of the K Islands in Indonesia had encounters with mermaids. The local villagers were familiar with the creatures and called them orang ikan, which just means man-fish. They were described as being fairly short compared to humans, with spikes on spine, shoulders and neck, pinkish skin, and a mouth that was more fish-like, and a split sort of tail. Not entirely sure how that one goes. So around 4'9" tall, mouth a bit like a carp. So some guy was sent to investigate because clearly the soldiers were smoking something they shouldn't have. The orang ikan made gurgling, burping noises. So this guy goes to check out on these soldiers. Do they have a belly button? Hard to tell. It might be sealed. So maybe not, maybe. I can't see one. But the orang ikan, when this guy went to find out and punish the soldiers for being stupid, he was shown a dead one. And he said it was 4'9" tall, pinkish skin, human-looking face, limbs, spikes along its head, and mouth like a carp. Unfortunately, as the war was on, they weren't able to deal with getting one back for examination. 1967, Canada. Okay. According to the story, a ferry filled with tourists spotted a yellow-haired mermaid sitting topless on the beach, eating a salmon and enjoying the waves. She was quite attractive and had dimples. There was one photo taken which does show a blonde woman with what appears to be the lower half of a porpoise. The incident happened a week later with a mermaid spotting, but by then there were too many skeptics. People tried to capture it and it disappeared and was never seen again. 1998 in Kailua Kona, one of the Hawaiian Islands. Well, you say that, but platypuses are mammals and they lay eggs. I wouldn't know how many babies a mermaid could have. That's a good question. We'd have to find one and ask. But yeah, mammals can lay eggs. Just so you know. So absolutely, a guy called Lecher that operates a diving school, and he was off the coast and he saw a woman swimming with a pod of dolphins. The woman was able to keep up with the dolphins, which was very odd. All of a sudden, she jumps into the air, and he realizes she's got the lower half of a body like a dolphin. 10 people on the boat witnessed the event, but the mermaid then, having jumped twice out of the water, disappeared. Now, an hour later, as Leitcher was photographing some underwater life, the same mermaid came and poked him, and as he turned around, she fled. And he did snap a few pictures. So it's apparently real. I have not seen the pictures. 2009 in Israel, as we have mentioned, absolutely. Then they tried to get photographs but couldn't. 2012 Zimbabwe, the dam is still not finished because they were too scared to go back and finish the repairs on the dam. So those are modern sightings of mermaids, not old ones. Now, we also have a lot more of other things that may or may not be there, but there's been stories of mermaids throughout history. All I'm saying is science can't disprove them. It seems a little rude to claim that they don't exist. But with that said, as Spooky has pointed out, we have reached the end of our live, and we actually need a new topic for tomorrow. So I saw a cartoon like that, where this guy's like, oh my God, mermaids are real. And on the other side, you see this poor guy who had been surfing, and the shark's like, and jumped out of the water. And this guy's like, oh my God, I'm dying, which was really quite sort of sick but funny. So, yes. But yeah, we don't know enough about the bottom of the ocean at all. What could or should or maybe might be down there is anybody's guess. There's a lot to be said for the fact that science simply hasn't gone down there. And we haven't even talked about the conspiracies yet. We will do that in the next live. Conspiracy theories about varying governments and experiments that actually might really have happened. And are aliens the victims in all of this? We'll find out tomorrow, when we try once again to freak ourselves out. And I shall leave you with this thought. We know that there is a thing called a sea spider. Basically, it's a kind of crab. We know that there is an island on land where they get up to 2 meters across in its leg span. They're big. We know that under the ocean, you get ones that are even bigger. I do hope you think about this next time you feel like going for a swim in the ocean. I know I will. But with that said, it's been an interesting live. I hope you've enjoyed. If you've got things you would like me to cover or do more about, do let me know. Remember, we rely on you, so liking, sharing, subscribing, become a member of the fan club and be a part of all that we do. It would be great to have you on board. I believe it's only around $5 to become a subscriber even. Imagine if I actually got subscribers. That would be nice. But nevertheless, let me know what you would like me to talk about next, and I'll give it a bash. But until then, my dear friends, it's been wondrous, and it is indeed late. So I will say to you, as I say on every occasion, good night. Sleep deep and sleep sweet, but don't sleep too near the ocean, because there are things there that not so much go bump in the night as go splash in the water in the deepest, darkest depths, and they may rise in the dark. So keep that holy symbol near at hand and maybe a harpoon or two, because what's there might come here. Have a wonderful night, and I hope it doesn't go bump for you. Sleep sweet. Me too, my friend.